Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
The year was 1347. It was a quiet October morning. 12 ships, called galleys, from Genoa sailed into the port of Messina, a busy city in Sicily. The dock workers stood and watched these foreign vessels arrive. What they saw next was very frightening and strange. The sailors on the ships were in terrible condition. They were dying, but not from common wounds from battles or from the dangers of the sea. An unknown sickness was killing them from the inside out. Their bodies showed awful, visible signs of this illness. They had big, black, painful lumps on their skin, often as large as chicken eggs. Their skin began to look dark, covered with black spots. Their blood seemed to turn black, too. These men were alive, yet they looked like dead bodies already. Death came very quickly, sometimes in just a few hours after the first signs appeared. This story is not simply a lesson from old history books. We will treat it like a careful investigation, like forensic scientists looking at a very old crime scene. Our goal is to understand exactly what happened in the past. We want to find out how this unseen killer could spread so fast and cause so much destruction across lands and peoples. We will explore the evidence, piece by piece. The people of Messina quickly understood the terrible danger these ships carried. They ordered the Genoese galleys to leave their port and go back to sea immediately. But it was already too late.
The sickness had jumped from the ships to the city's inhabitants. From this moment, a huge and terrible problem began, one that would change Europe completely and reshape it in the next 5 years. This change would be far more powerful and lasting than any war or king's decree. This terrible event was more than just one sickness or one bad thing. It was like a perfect storm of 3 very specific problems that all happened at the same time. These 3 factors had to align perfectly for the disaster to unfold as it did. If even one of these vital parts had been missing, the world might not have seen such a widespread and deadly tragedy. We will learn more about these 3 important factors in the chapters that follow as we uncover each piece of the puzzle. The ships were pushed back out of the harbor. They sailed away, back into the calm sea. But the fate of Europe was already sealed. No one saw it happen in the busy port, but a single small rat had already scurried down one of the thick mooring ropes. It ran from the infected ship to the wooden dock and then disappeared into the city. This one rat, carrying its deadly secret, had just delivered the beginning of the Black Death to an entire continent. The quiet October morning had changed the world forever. 2. The Small Killer. Chapter 2 focuses on the tiny enemy, a special germ called Yersinia pestis. Many people think rats were the main problem, but that is not quite right.
The real secret was in the flea, a small insect that carried the sickness.
Fleas carried the Yersinia pestis germ. When a flea bit an infected rat, the germ went into its stomach. Inside the flea, the germs grew very fast. They made a thick block in the flea's gut. This block made the flea incredibly hungry. It could not eat properly, even after biting. So the starving flea bit more and more. When it bit a person, it pushed the germs from its blocked gut right into the new wound. Thousands of these small killers entered the human body in one bite, starting the deadly infection. Once inside, Yersinia pestis worked quickly and cleverly. It had a special trick. It could stop the body's immune system from working. It was like turning off all the alarm bells before the body even knew it was being attacked. This is why people became sick and died so fast. Their bodies did not have enough time to fight back. This kind of super-fast action has a scary modern twin, which we will learn about in Chapter 7. First, the disease usually showed as bubonic plague. This meant swollen, intensely painful lumps appeared under the arms or in the groin. These lumps were called buboes, and they often grew to the size of a hen's egg. They were a clear sign that death was coming soon for many, typically within days. But the germ could get even worse. Sometimes the bacteria moved from the buboes into the bloodstream. Then it attacked the blood itself, making it clot everywhere inside the body. This caused body parts to turn black. This was septicemic plague, and it was almost always fatal. Then the Yersinia pestis germ mutated. It changed its form. It learned to attack the lungs directly. When this happened, people developed a severe cough. Each cough sent tiny drops of the germ into the air, making it airborne. This new form was called pneumonic plague. It was the most terrifying change because it needed no flea. Anyone breathing the same air could get sick. Pneumonic plague killed extremely fast, often in 1 to 6 days. If you caught it, there was almost no chance to live. It had a 100% mortality rate, making it an ultimate killer. 3. Bad medicine. Medieval doctors tried to stop the Black Death, but they did not know about tiny germs. Their understanding of sickness was based on very old ideas. They believed diseases came from an imbalance of body fluids, known as humors, or from bad air, called miasma. Because of these wrong ideas, their treatments were often painful, strange, and did not help. One common but harmful treatment was bloodletting. Doctors would cut a vein to let out blood, thinking this would remove the bad parts of the sickness from the body. This only made already sick and weak people even weaker. They also tried to deal with the painful, swollen lumps on the body, called buboes. They would open these buboes with sharp knives to drain out what they thought was corrupt matter. But opening these infected swellings actually helped the bacteria inside spread more easily, often making the patient's condition worse. Some doctors tried to make people sweat very much. They would place sick patients close to roaring fires, thinking the intense heat would burn out the disease from their bodies. This simply caused already feverish and weakened individuals to become severely dehydrated, which often sped up their collapse and death. Other proposed cures were truly bizarre and even shocking. People used special mixes of herbs and other things, like theriac, an ancient medicine that sometimes had over 60 ingredients, including things like viper flesh and opium. Some believed in the magic of expensive jewels, grinding crushed emeralds into powder to be eaten. There were also incredibly disturbing ideas, such as applying human feces directly to the sick areas of the body, thinking it would draw out the illness. None of these unusual remedies worked. They offered no real help against the deadly disease. The famous plague doctor had a very distinct and scary look. They wore a long waxed coat, thick gloves, and a wide-brimmed hat. The most memorable part was their mask, shaped like a bird's beak. This beak was filled with strong-smelling herbs, such as rose petals, mint, or camphor. Doctors believed these herbs would clean the bad air they breathed and protect them from miasma. This main idea was wrong. However, by accident, their full outfit offered a small amount of protection. The long coat and gloves could block some contact with sick people's fluids and prevent flea bites. The mask, even if it wasn't filtering bad air, might have filtered some tiny droplets that people coughed or sneezed. Despite all these desperate and often gruesome efforts, medieval medicine completely failed against the Black Death. Doctors watched as most of their patients died, and many doctors themselves often fell ill and died. People saw clearly that no doctor, no matter how wise or educated, could stop the relentless march of the disease. Hope in medical help quickly vanished. Because doctors and their methods proved useless, people began to look for answers in very different places. They turned from the failing science of their time to the supernatural, believing that only a divine or magical power could now save them from the terrible sickness that gripped the world. 4. Madness and faith. After doctors could not help, people felt lost and had no medical hope. Because of this, many turned to God in extreme ways. Groups called flagellants appeared across Europe. These groups walked from town to town, wearing distinctive white robes with red crosses. In public squares, they whipped themselves with scourges that had 3 tails and sharp nails embedded in them.
They hit their own bare skin until blood ran down their backs. They did this to show God how sorry they were for their sins. They hoped their great pain would make God stop the plague. People from all parts of society, even some priests and nobles, joined these groups. The Church did not like the flagellants. Pope Clement VI said their actions were wrong and dangerous, but he could not stop their movement. As hope disappeared, many people felt a strong need to blame someone for the terrible sickness. This is a common human reaction when people face a scary, unknown threat. They looked for a scapegoat, a group to hold responsible for their suffering. Sadly, many people blamed the Jewish communities. They spread false stories, saying Jewish people had poisoned the wells to deliberately spread the plague. This was not true. Jewish people suffered from the plague just like everyone else. Often they suffered even more because they lived in crowded areas. But fear and old hatreds were very strong and made people believe lies. Terrible violence against Jewish communities began across many parts of Europe. In cities like Strasbourg, about 2,000 Jewish people were burned alive in one day. This happened even before the plague truly reached Strasbourg, as people thought this awful act would protect their city from the disease. In other cities like Mainz, around 12,000 Jewish people were killed.
Pope Clement VI tried to stop this widespread persecution. He said the stories were lies and told people not to hurt Jewish communities. But local leaders often ignored the Pope. Sometimes these leaders also owed money to Jewish lenders, and destroying Jewish communities helped them get rid of their debts. This period showed how easily society could break down under great stress. It showed a kind of mass hysteria, where large groups of people acted in very strange or cruel ways based on fear. This human tendency to find scapegoats and act in extreme ways is a psychological question we will explore again later, connecting it to modern times. As the death toll grew higher and higher, society seemed to be falling apart, with order disappearing. But then the huge loss of life reached a critical tipping point. This would paradoxically change the lives of the survivors forever, though they did not know it yet. 5. A New World. The Black Death was terrible for Europe, but for the people who lived, it made life better in some ways. This might sound strange, but it is true. So many people died from the disease. This meant there were not enough workers for farms or towns. Before the plague, many peasants were like servants. They had to work for their lords and could not leave the land. After the plague, things changed a lot. There were fewer people to do farm work or make things in towns, so workers could ask for more money.
Their wages, the money they earned, went up a lot. Sometimes they got twice or 3 times more pay than before. If a lord did not pay enough, a peasant could simply leave. They could move to another land or a town where workers were needed. This new power for workers was called the Golden Age of Labor. Laws were made to stop these wage increases, but they did not work. This big change slowly ended the old system of feudalism, where people were tied to the land. Peasants gained freedom and could choose where and for whom they worked. Also, many people who died from the plague left their land and money. The people who lived often got these things. A peasant family might have had only a small farm before, but if their neighbors died, they could get more land or even entire deserted villages. City people also inherited property and wealth. This made some survivors suddenly much richer than they had ever thought possible. This helped new families become powerful. For example, the Medici family in Florence bought land and businesses when others died, which helped them become very important later on. This big change in money and work created a new type of society. It led to the rise of independent craftspeople and merchants. These people could save money, start their own businesses, and their children could have even better lives. This economic shift planted the seeds for new ideas, like the Renaissance, a famous time of new art and learning in Europe.
It also helped create the idea of a middle class, a group of people who were not very rich or very poor, but could live comfortably. This was truly the start of how many modern economies work today. So the plague brought big changes for the better for many survivors. But there was a secret hidden in their bodies, a change in their blood. This change would not be understood until many hundreds of years later. It was a silent mark from the plague, waiting to be found. 6. The secret in the blood. In the year 1665, a small village in England called Eyam made a very big choice. When the deadly plague arrived, the villagers decided to quarantine themselves. This meant they stayed strictly within their village and did not let anyone leave or enter. This brave decision led to many deaths within Eyam, but it created a unique historical record. This record later helped scientists understand more about diseases and how they affect human populations over time. Hundreds of years after the Black Death, scientists made an important discovery about human genes. They found a special change in human blood, a genetic mutation called CCR5 delta 32. This mutation is like a small shield inside our bodies. It changes a specific part of our white blood cells that certain diseases use to enter. People with this genetic change have a form of natural protection.
Scientists began to wonder, could this special shield have come from the time of the Black Death? They looked back at the old mystery of why some people did not get sick during the time of the Black Death. During the plague, many families lived together. Some family members got sick and died, but others in the same house never caught the disease or recovered quickly. It was a great puzzle. Now, we believe the CCR5 delta 32 mutation played a key part. People who carried this specific genetic change might have had a better chance of surviving the plague. The most surprising part of this discovery is how this old disease helps us today. The CCR5 delta 32 mutation makes some people stronger against a modern virus called HIV. This virus attacks the body's immune system. People who have 2 copies of this mutation are almost fully protected from HIV infection. Even people with just 1 copy experience a much slower disease if infected. So, the Black Death, a terrible event in history, left a hidden genetic mark on humanity. This genetic scar from centuries ago now acts as a shield against a completely different modern virus. It shows how past diseases can leave surprising legacies in our bodies, helping us in unexpected ways. We have learned much about how the Black Death changed people's bodies and their genetic makeup for the future. The secrets hidden in our blood tell a long story of human survival.
But the story of the Black Death is not completely over. Recent scientific findings from the cold lands of the Arctic show something new and concerning. Deep in the frozen ground, called permafrost, scientists have discovered ancient bacteria that have been frozen for thousands of years. Some of these old bacteria are very similar to the ones that caused the Black Death. This means the deadly bacterium has not truly vanished from the world. Instead, it is just sleeping quietly in the ice, waiting for the planet to warm and for the ancient ice to melt. 7. The danger today. The story of the Black Death often feels like something from a very distant past, but the danger is not gone. The bacteria that caused the plague, Yersinia pestis, is still alive today. It is not extinct. Every year, people still get sick with the plague in different parts of the world. There have been recent cases in places like Madagascar, where it appears more often, and even in the United States. This shows that the small killer from Chapter 2 is still a threat. But a new, even scarier danger is growing because of our changing world. The Earth's very cold places, like the Arctic, are getting warmer very quickly. Beneath the frozen ground there, called permafrost, are layers of ice that have been frozen for thousands of years. As this ancient ice melts, it is releasing very old germs, bacteria and viruses that have been locked away in time.
These are not just any old germs. Some of them could be strains of plague or other pathogens that our modern immune systems have never seen before. Our bodies have no memory of how to fight these ancient diseases. They are completely new to us. Imagine a disease as deadly as the Black Death, but our doctors and medicines have no idea how to stop it because it is so unfamiliar. Scientists call this a microbial archaeology, where pathogens are being dug up from their frozen tombs. We already know that anthrax, another serious bacteria, has been released from melting permafrost in Siberia, causing sickness and even death in humans and animals. This situation paints a picture of the next great pandemic. Think about the lessons from the 14th century. A powerful, new disease, easily spread, meeting people whose bodies could not fight it. Now, add fast global travel. A new germ released from the Arctic could quickly spread across continents, just like the ships carried the plague in Chapter 1. It could create a global sickness on a scale we have not seen for a long, long time. The science is very clear. These ancient bacteria and viruses are still out there. They are waking up as our planet warms. This hidden danger is real, and it is growing every day. The memory of the Black Death shows us the power of such a disease. Yet, as we will see, the biggest danger might not be the germ itself, or even the sickness it causes.
The true threat might be how we react when great fear takes over society. This is the challenge we face today. 8. The end. The story of the Black Death is now clear. It was a perfect storm, meaning 3 big things happened at the same time to cause the disaster. First, the climate changed greatly. Europe had colder weather and much rain. This made growing food very hard. Many people became weak from hunger. This made them less able to fight off sickness. Second, people traveled far across the sea for trade. The Genoese galleys, sailing from distant lands like the Black Sea, brought the sickness to Sicily. These ships had sick sailors and rats with infected fleas hidden in their cargo. Third, the sickness itself, called Yersinia pestis, was very strong and smart. It could kill people fast, and it changed to spread through the air, making it even more dangerous. These three things together made the Black Death so deadly for Europe. This terrible time changed Europe deeply and forever. When so many people died, there were fewer workers available. This was a surprising benefit for the people who survived. Workers could ask for more money and better jobs than ever before. It was like a new start for them, bringing them more freedom. The old system, called feudalism, where powerful lords owned all the land and people worked for them like servants, began to disappear. People moved away from farms to cities for new work and opportunities.
New ways of doing business and trading goods began to grow, powered by these changes. This period, after the Black Death, helped to start the Renaissance and the growth of a new group of people, the middle class. So, a truly great disaster helped build the foundations of the modern world we live in. But even with all these big changes in society and new technologies, our human reactions to deep fear often stay the same. In the middle of the plague, people became terribly scared. They didn't understand the sickness or how it spread. Because of this, they looked for someone to blame. Many innocent Jewish communities were terribly attacked and hurt because people falsely thought they had poisoned water wells. This was an example of mass hysteria, where many people become very afraid and act in extreme, often violent ways without clear reasons. Even today, when we face big problems like new sicknesses or other global threats, people can act similarly. They might spread rumors, quickly blame other groups, or become very angry and scared, making smart decisions difficult. The Black Death showed that our minds still react in old, very human ways when faced with big, unknown dangers. The Black Death was a terrible time in history, but it also showed the great strength and resilience of people. It pushed society to change, to become more organized and modern. We learned important lessons about diseases and how vital public health is. We also learned important things about ourselves. We learned that while science and knowledge grow, our basic feelings of fear and anger can still make us do bad things if we let them. Understanding history helps us see these patterns repeating through time. We must remember the lessons from the past so that when big problems come again, we can choose to be wise and work together, not just be scared. What do you think is the most important lesson from the Black Death for people today, and why?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world.